Hello and welcome to the podcast. I have joining me today the one, the only Brent W. Peterson, hailing out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Which one of those? What is it? Correct me. Correct the record, Brent. Introduce
Well,
yourself.
Minneapolis is a city in Minnesota, so I am actually from both. You
Okay.
might be thinking of Minneapolis, St. Paul as the Twin Cities. I am well, and I'm from a suburb, but we consider ourselves on the Minneapolis side.
Yeah, yeah. I always
But
that's the one
that intro,
that's the one state city combo that I always forget which one's the city, which one's the state. I don't know
right?
exactly why that is, but
Because you're thinking, oh, are you from St. Paul? Is that a state?
that's that's exactly it. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's exactly it. I'm thinking St. Paul. That's definitely a state.
Because
And
you're
then
like you're from the state of Pasadena, aren't you? And that's the city of California.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, just checking.
I don't know if you heard of the city of California. It's an interesting place these days. A lot going on. They got a lot of stuff going on.
A lot going on everywhere.
Speaking of having a lot going on, I took a quick look at some of your recent tweets. It's crazy. You're doing webinars left, right, and center. You you're a HubSpot Gold partner. Where did that came out of nowhere? Where did that I don't know how that happened. Obviously Magento Solutions partner.
Yeah,
Actually there.
Adobe. We're an Adobe solutions partner. Let me just correct you.
Are you also in Adobe? What level are you on the?
We're gold.
That's that's impressive
Thanks.
because
Did
no,
it all by myself.
you did, yeah.
No, no, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
No.
No, I mean it's really interesting, and because in this time, I mean earlier today we were tweeting about a couple of different agencies that have been acquired, right? And sort of, it's almost like at this point the differentiation is if you can become an Adobe partner, you want to do that, and if not, you basically want to get acquired by an Adobe partner. That's sort of how things are shaking out right now, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think that we've seen some fantastic uh, uh, purchases or acquisitions lately. I mean, I think the big one is like Blue Acorn is now also part of Mediotype, and wow, they're like huge.
Yeah, yeah. I always forget the name of the parent company. It's Blue Acorn ICI, I want to say.
Yeah.
So it's can't keep track of all of these chains of parent children company, but yeah, it's I mean there's a lot of acquisition. It makes sense. And yeah, I had to realize, was it hard to become an Adobe partner? Because I remember hearing that it's not necessarily easy to get into the program. Um,
Well, we're already a Magento solution partner, so I think we got grandfathered in
oh really?
automatically. There are some more requirements ongoing. I think we need to get a few more certifications, and then we become a Magento certified Adobe solution partner.
Gotcha.
So we're working on that.
My understanding was that Magento Solution Partners did not automatically get grandfathered in, but I might have just totally misunderstood that.
Maybe we didn't. I don't know.
Maybe you didn't. Maybe may, may, maybe the
We
whole
had
thing
something.
maybe the whole thing was a joke. Maybe they were
I'm probably
kidding.
getting, I'm probably getting in a huge amount of trouble now when this is published, and they're like, "No, Brent, you can't say that."
Whoops. Well, I'm
Yeah.
certainly not trying to get anybody in trouble. We can shift topics here. Um, I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable. But I also saw the Magento U open house thing. That looked super interesting.
Yeah, we've been doing that for about 4 months now, mainly with Yisa Ritzma, Derek Harlick, and myself. So bringing together trainers and help trying to get some questions out of people around what does it mean to get a certification in Magento? How what does that benefit you as an employee? And then from the merchant side, I think Derek is really involved in the merchant side
Derek's the
and how
man when it
important
comes to merchant
Derek
side
Harley, yeah,
training. Yeah.
how important that is as a business owner to not only know what your Magento store can do, but also learning about how Magento works from the inside. And it's like I can't tell you how overlooked that whole thing is. From a developer standpoint, there's a developer side that, that's been the push of Magento U forever. But I'm hoping now. So, anyways, it's going to be called Magento. Adobe Learning is going to be the new thing. But my goal is that we're educating the whole holistic approach to learning around Adobe products. And Magento is one of those products, but that's not to say that we're not, as a company, going to take on some other Adobe products that we can teach and in turn learn ourselves, but then teach those products.
What are
So
some
I'm
of those
excited.
Adobe products that you guys are diving into?
Yeah, so Experience Manager, the whole Experience Cloud in general, but Target Experience Manager,
Ha-
Campaign, Analytics, those are all going to be part of this whole Magento community ecosystem,
okay.
Adobe community ecosystem that really are integral for a merchant who wants to have a holistic approach to their whole store. With Experience Manager, you can get a nice CMS system and integrate it into Magento. So there's all kinds of options that are available to the merchants now.
Give me a little, because I've wanted to better understand Experience Manager. So give me a mini training here in the next 3 minutes on how Experience Manager works, what it does. I don't know too much about it. It seems like you can't just go see a demo online, or like you have to go through it. My assumption is you have to go through official trainings and things like that.
Yeah, so I'm only new to Experience Manager as well, but basically it's going to be a, let's just call it a hub, and there's an open source product for AEM. I think it's Apache Sling was product that Adobe purchased and then rolled into Experience Manager.
Hmm.
That is a really old open source project from Adobe that's been brought into the commercial world. So it allows you to have a central hub to do a lot of that, say, let's call it CMS work, asset management, things
Mm.
like that, that would allow you to better organize and push content to different properties. We'll call them properties. So your CMS system or your e-commerce system, managing your assets like your images for social media, things like that.
Hmm.
It is a let's call it a behemoth of information that you can put together in one
I
place.
think that's the
And
show title. Let's call it a behemoth.
yeah, so again, I am not even close to being an expert. We've just been introduced to AEM, and I'm excited to dive in and learn more about it. But I think as an Adobe partner and as an organization that does that type of work, we're committed to learning about those products and then in turn implementing those products for
Is
clients.
it like primarily like a headless CMS, or is it more like a WordPress, like a CMS that has a front end baked into it, like a?
Yes. Okay, so again, you'll have to forgive me for my ignorance if I get this wrong. People will correct me later, so I'm not going to come out as an expert. But it would be the place where you would maintain that content and then push it to your platform. So it could be CMS that's going to be get pushed to Magento,
Gotcha.
could be pushed to Drupal, could be pushed to wherever, and you can manage that content in a central place. There's another CMS. It would be, yeah, like, so Headless would be a good way to look at it. There are other systems that do the same type of content work where you can push it to different platforms and then
Right.
they'd be displayed on that network. So
Right.
Drupal would be a good endpoint for something like AEM to display the content.
Gotcha. Yeah, I usually think of like Prismic as the first one that comes to mind of like a headless CMS. It's just one of the ones I've used. So that was kind of a neat one. I remember seeing, I think Peter Yap built an integration with Prismic on like a PWA or something recently, but it has like a pretty simple interface. But anyway, yeah, like I don't know that much about the whole Adobe ecosystem, and I kind of want to try to better wrap my head around things, but I guess it takes some time. So So what's the story with that electric guitar in the background, dude? Can you shred that up a little bit?
Pandemic. So just to go back in time a little bit, we have had a global pandemic in the U.S. And typically I go to my office. I am now at home. I'm in my son's bedroom, who's an avid guitar player, who has at least a
Gotcha.
dozen guitars.
Really? It's a
My
lot of
son has
guitars.
bought a house. He's out of the house, long gone. This is the guitar that he's left behind,
That's
and it
like the
looks great.
least.
And
That's
it
like
and
the
it
least.
promotes a lot of conversations on Zoom.
That's
That's
awesome.
exactly what it plays. I play the
I
piano.
played right into your hand by asking about the guitar that you strategically placed in the
Yes.
background.
I play piano. We have a grand piano down in our living room,
Oh, nice.
and I'm just waiting. My wife has had some issues with her back, so I'm waiting for her to get a little stronger so we could lift it up the steps, and then it's going behind me on the wall. So I've already got the mounts in there, and we're just going to hang it
See
up there
that
where
one now I could tell that was a joke. I could tell that was a most of the viewers watching at home couldn't tell that was a joke. I could tell that was a joke
yeah,
because I'm
straight face. Got
yeah,
to do it.
straight face, always straight face. I'm like 80% tuned into your dad jokes, which are high level. People don't realize how advanced your dad joke game is. It's so high level that it goes over most people's heads.
Yeah,
And
no comment.
so you don't play that guitar at all. You play
Nope.
piano, but okay,
Yeah, yeah.
fair
It
enough.
looks good. And my son built it himself.
He
I remember
he built
it's
it
one of
himself.
that's a kit. It's a kit you got, and I helped him paint it. So if we got really close, there'd be a few little drip marks on it. But yeah, it was a nice little project.
That's incredible, man. That's really cool. I like your relationship with your kids is really cool. Your daughter works with you, and like the projects and stuff you do with your kids is like it's neat. It's cool to see. That's kind of like my goal as my kids get older to have all sorts of cool stories like that, and maybe
Well,
work with my
my
kids.
son is a Magento front end developer, and he also works for us. So
Oh, that's right. Okay,
yeah,
that's really
we
cool.
got
That's
a
amazing.
family affair.
Yeah, you
Yep.
kept it all in the family.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
Well, tell your son if he ever gets tired of working for you, he can hit me up, and if he needs any
yeah,
other opportunities.
yeah. You know, my son worked for us when he started working for us when he was 15, and he worked for us until he was about 19, and then he thought for sure that the grass is greener, so he went to work for another agency as a front end developer, and he did he did learn that a lot of agencies have struggles in all different areas. And so he came back to work for us a couple of years ago, and we're very happy to have him.
That's cool.
He's a great part of our team.
So let me ask you a question that's a little bit tangential, but it's going to tie into the Magento ecosystem and training and stuff like that. But I've been thinking recently I was talking to my dad's wife about education and stuff like that and our kids, right? And education is sort of changing so rapidly. It's become not even without COVID, but it's certainly with COVID, things are so crazy with schools. And I'm thinking to myself, like, does it even like there was a time where going to college was the obvious default thing if you could. And every parent would want to push their kids to do that. But I feel like things have changed so much. A lot of the work that I do isn't directly related to what I went to school for, although I did enjoy going to school. And I think to myself sometimes, I don't know if I would necessarily want to encourage my kids to go to school or not. I mean, it depends what they're into. I mean, to go to college. It depends what they're into specifically and things like that. So I'm curious what your thoughts on that, and I'm going to tie it into your whole training expertise with my follow-up question.
Sure, yeah. So I think in the Magento space, in the development space in general, I would say that a college degree is not required. For myself personally, I was at university for 3 or 8 years. Sorry.
Phew.
I went to school for eight
You took your
years.
time.
Yep. And after 8 years, I decided that maybe running a business was a better idea. So, I did drop out of school after 8 years of university, and I did start a business. Um, so I think there are avenues open to everybody and however they want to pursue those avenues. I do feel like that getting some experience at higher education is very important. And I think that even though I never got a degree in 8 years and I have 235 credits at the University of Minnesota and you need 180 to graduate, that I did get a lot of practical knowledge out of that. And going into the computer, I started in the computer hardware business, went into software, but my degree, which would have been in history, has just served me so well that, if I wanted to look up who was the founder of Apple, I can easily look at my history degree and find out the history of Apple by doing that. So I think there's a lot of, I think that, I mean, in all seriousness, there are some practical things that come out of
Right.
being in school.
Right.
And
So
my daughter did graduate with a 4 year degree in Spanish, and she uses that every day in her work life.
right. That's really cool. And like, yeah, like I would say the same, that there were a lot of great things in the experience that I had, and that I valued a ton. And I had some scholarships and some financial aid. At the end of the day, I had to pay back like 20 grand, right? Which is, that took some work, and then I had to pay off my wife's, and then I had to pay off her master's. But these are minor details. But there's a big difference between 20 grand, and it feels like it's getting a lot closer to 200 these days. I mean, I don't know all the specifics on average financial aid packages, but it's gotten so out of control. Like, it's one thing to say, hey, there's a lot of value in this, even if I could have gotten a job without it. Like I was talking to my dad's wife, and was saying, like, honestly, I would rather try to help them find their job skills through their own means, whether that's getting into a training program, learning things themselves, and then maybe they take a gap year, and maybe that 20 grand or that 10 grand goes towards, hey, go travel, go take a gap year, enjoy yourself, and have that period of time where, as a young adult, you can sort of develop as a young adult before you jump into work without throwing 200 grand down the drain. You know what I mean? Like, that's sort of how I think about it. And I know people have strong opinions on this kind of a thing, because obviously you want the best for your kids.
No, I agree. And, I think I listen to my wife all the time. And I think that would be one of the things that she would say is that a gap year is an important part in that, kind of learning a little bit about yourself and maybe, even spending some time in another country in that gap year, and making sure that you know what you want to do when you go to that next level. So maybe you don't spend 8 years of your life just wandering through universities trying to figure out what to do with yourself. That I think that in a gap year, that is an important thing that you can really learn from yourself,
Yeah.
and then really, like, go. My daughter went to a private university. When you go to something like that, they really want you to get finished in 4 years. So I think having some of that guidance and not just going into it open-ended, thinking I'll finish this eventually,
Right.
and really working towards that goal of finishing and getting your degree and then going out into the world.
Right.
I
Right.
think that's such an important lesson for any young person to do. I think in terms of a developer, I'm not sure, a computer science degree probably is really going to be beneficial to that developer who wants to work in a big company, who has a lot of aspirations to get to management level and some kind of executive level. A lot of times, though, that type of level, and again, I could be completely wrong, so don't take me, this is just my opinion. That level is going to require you to have some kind of a degree. But I think that also, if you're showing enough initiative, you can get to that level even without a degree in our field.
Yeah.
I think you know what you know, and you can demonstrate that you know it and you're good at articulating it, you are going to advance in this field,
Yeah.
in this type of business. It doesn't have to be Magento. It could be anything in e-commerce that allows you to progress through the corporate ranks if that's what you want to do.
Right. And yeah, I think that's the tie-in to what you guys do as far as training and stuff goes is like, I think a lot about how to, at Commerce Hero, a lot of times people are looking for senior developers with some level of experience. And that's fine. That makes sense to go that route. But also, a lot of times you want to find people and train them and get them, from zero or from some basic level of experience as a developer to being really productive in Magento. And so the training stuff is huge. I mean, I know you guys do everything from merchant. Do you guys focus more on merchant facing training or developer training these days, or both?
Yeah, it is split. I mean, I'm going to say that prior to the Adobe acquisition, especially, it was probably 90% developer, 10% merchant. Now it's probably half and half coming as merchant training. Um, I would say that the developer training is as important as merchant training, and that both both should equally be versed in what Magento can do for you.
Hmm. Gotcha. Um, how's everything going with COVID for you guys? I mean, with the work environment that we're in, working not only remote but from home and all that kind of stuff.
Uh, I think we're doing really well. We have four main offices, with Mexico always being sort of dispersed. In Mexico we have about 10 employees, but they've never congregated into one place. So, U.S. we're all in Minneapolis, except for we have one person down in Austin, and then everybody else is in an office in Bolivia and in India. And so I think the people that are struggling the most are the ones that really like that social interaction of going to an office. I know that in Mexico, everybody's never been in an office and they would love to go to an office. And I think in the US, I think everybody's sort of experiencing, hey, this works. And maybe we don't all have to go to an office. I do feel that in the programming world, there is always value, especially in bringing people up, like in bringing from a junior to a senior level type of developer.
Yeah,
There's value having that person with you
yeah,
and helping them to learn and asking those questions that sometimes, hey, why can't I get my local system to work? If you have somebody there that can just come over and help you
yeah.
get through the issue rather than taking a day on your own, that's so valuable.
That's one of the things. That's one of the common things I've seen almost across the boards with Commerce Hero is that if you're going to hire somebody remote, and I'm always encouraging remote hires and things like that, they have to be at a certain level. Like there's something about the junior level. They could be the most motivated person, but there's something that sort of breaks down trying to train a junior developer remotely. And it's actually interesting. Just this morning was tweeting with Max Chadwick over at Something Digital, and he was saying that they've done some real specific things related to training junior devs. And I pinged him. We're going to probably talk with him about that soon. But I thought that was super interesting because in my experience, it's almost impossible. And I think people are innovating in different ways right now in COVID. It's like you sort of have to. So people are kind of, I guess, maybe figuring it out. Um, but yeah, you know, it's tricky.
Yeah, we developed a 12-week program with Magento pre-COVID as a training, as a sort of developer training program, that a senior developer would be involved. We basically took the 5-day curriculum from Adobe or from Magento, for the developer bootcamp and spread it over 12 weeks. And we did it with four people last year, and it went really well. I think that the goal at the end of the period was that they could either pass the associate level exam, or they'd be ready to move into sort of a intern role within the company.
Mhm.
So we did have, I think, we offered positions for two out of the four people, and they all were successful in staying in Magento. I think the risk as a business owner is that they're going to, once they get to that point, then now they're like suddenly they can go and get a job with Commerce Hero and make a lot of money. So, um, I
Well,
think that, but I mean, I think the goal is that you're getting enough developers that some are going to like to stay with you. So we are going to do that again when we can do it in person. We're not right now we're not even attempting to do it in remote, but we do have a program. We're going to work with the University of Colima in Mexico to do that same type of program. We're bringing some juniors in, run them through a 12-week program,
oh, that's
and
really
then the
cool.
goal would be to have them stay on for another 6 months in a intern capacity where they get real working experience on live sites with practical oversight.
Right. How's everything going with your events? Because you organize a bunch of different events, and I'm sure that's all on hold. Is it on hold indefinitely, or what's going on?
We were lucky enough to get Meet Magento India in February, which was fun. And, I remember being in India and hearing about things happening in China and like, wow, that's over the border and things like that. And then, yeah, anyway, so we are planning on Meet Magento Mexico. That's November 6th. It will be a virtual event. We're not even going to try to do it live. We canceled Magex this year, and yeah, obviously we also canceled the Big Damn Run. We did it virtually, but it
Yeah.
hasn't been as fun as doing it in person.
Yeah, it's tough. For the virtual event, I think you said Mexico in November. Are you guys doing anything special for sort of the production value of the virtual event? How are you guys going to do that?
Yeah, we're looking at a specific platform to use for the event, and we'll see how that goes. So I have tons of ideas in my head on how to give ROI to potential sponsors. I was a little bit surprised to see the cost of the platforms, to put on a 1 day or a half day event.
Yeah,
It would almost be for a half day or 1 day event if you were just to get what is it, Trinity Hall in Austin, like we did Magex. We would almost be in the same cost category,
really.
minus the food and everything. So
That's
we'll have
insane.
to really evaluate if we don't get enough sponsors to do that. It's going to be an interesting experience to see how that works.
Oh, that's a bummer. Um, yeah, what does the platform do? Like,
Did you go to the Magento Association
no, I
conference?
didn't, but I did hear about it quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many there's so many different platforms out there right now that are offering this event experience. And we're looking at one. I don't want to put any names out there right now. I know Meet Magento UK used a particular platform. Magento Association used Hop In, I think. So there's just so many different options, and there's so many different cost structures. It is like
It's
the Wild
complicated.
West of events right now.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
and I think people are getting a little burnt out on these events too. And there's just, part of the appeal to an event is going and seeing your friends and
Yeah.
you know, interacting and being in a different city and maybe
Yeah.
doing some touristy things. None of that can happen on a virtual event.
Yeah. Yeah. I did see this video of like a Tony Robbins event that they just did virtual, and it was pretty wild. They had like this really great studio, and then they had a digital wall of all the individual Zoom feeds of like I think it was like 12,000 attendees. And so then Tony Robbins was like walking around and looking at each of them and making everybody jump around and stuff. It was one of the most unique virtual event setups I've ever seen. It was pretty cool.
Wow.
But yeah, I'll send it to you. But yeah, I mean, I think there's going to have to be a lot of innovation in this space, and if we can ever somehow get to the point that it can feel like that real event experience in some sense, that'd be great because it's kind of irreplaceable, like that person-to-person experience, you know?
Yeah, and I know, back in like April or May, we were looking at doing Meet Magenta Mexico. We thought for sure by November we'd be able to do it in person, because yeah, who would ever thought that it's
That
just
it
going
would
to
go
kind of
this
drag
long.
on like it's doing. And
Yeah.
now it looks like the spring events are not on either. So especially the big ones.
Spring
So
2021.
yeah,
Yeah, that's brutal.
um,
Yeah, I saw that tweet that you posted. I think I saved it. It was like, what do you miss the most about um,
yeah,
conferences? What
yeah,
what's the top thing you miss from conferences? Swag, people, travel, or I hate conferences?
right.
And then I replied, what about I hate people?
I saw that. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I should like that or not, but
Not that I hate, not that, but some of us are more comfortable being away from groups of people than others. But I have my moments.
yeah, I think that the idea of a comic, you think about the original Magento Imagine events when they're at the M, like it was always there's so much space just to get off on your own with three or four people and hang out. Some of my most memorable times there were just like I've got some great pictures of like four or five of us just running in the desert. It was just it's that you are like inundated with people when you're in the main conference, but that is just it is a small part of it, and sometimes maybe what you want to get out of it is some of that more personal interaction with your friends that you haven't seen in a while. I know I love to go. I went to for the first time. I went to the Unconference in Cologne in Germany last year. Wow, that was a fantastic event. I've never been to an unconference, and I would so highly recommend it. And they only allow like 120 people in, and it always sells out. And I can totally see why people dig that style of event where
Yeah, I've
you're
always
both.
heard really good things about that unconference in particular.
Yep, yeah, and I think they've already announced it for September 2021.
Like a
So
real event, like a physical event.
yeah,
Oh, okay, because it's probably small enough that they can probably distance effectively. That's another one of the nice things, and maybe that's one of the answers here is to do these smaller events. I mean, everybody wants events to be really big. There's an energy to them. But yeah, maybe that 100-person mark, with more of kind of a unique, intimate experience. Maybe that's a model that could work.
yeah, hope so.
Yeah.
Hope we can travel.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a huge traveler. Like you normally travel every month, I'd imagine.
Yep. Yeah. I think I still managed to get about 83,000 miles on my Delta account by the end of March this year. So, um, yeah, I was all in.
Yeah. So is it particularly hard for you, or are you kind of adapting and
It has definitely been a relief not to travel so much. It's been
oh really?
a really nice break. I do find now that I sort of would, I kind of miss going to different places. Some of the particular places that I travel to a lot, I definitely miss. And part of my travel, I incorporate going for a run, and sometimes I incorporate a longer opportunity, for 3 or 4 hours to get out and run. And that, for me, that's just a big part of it, kind of that seeing places. And like sometimes I get up really early too. So definitely I go places that if I knew I where people new people if people from that area knew I was going there would like don't go there, or I don't know any better, so I'll go there the first time until somebody tells me that's the stupidest thing you could ever done. Having those experiences and going through places that 6 o'clock in the morning where things are just waking up, but you're in the middle of this foreign city and seeing all the things that you would never see as a tourist or even as a regular resident because you're kind of in the back streets, but it's early enough where you sort of feel safe. I don't know.
Yeah.
That is a good, I think that's a great experience that you can get out of travel.
Yeah.
And out of sort of seeing what's behind the doors.
Yeah. Yeah, I was never real big into running, and I did a few of the runs you organized, but then I kind of stopped and things like that. And I had, part of it is that, I've lost about 40 pounds. I've got another probably 15, 20 to go. But I've started to jog a little bit more often. I kind of have to do it gradually because my ankle will kind of flare up if I'm not careful. And, but just recently, I actually was in LA recently to visit family. And I did the jog thing. It wasn't a long jog, but I did that, and it was a really neat way. And I think about how you do that and Phil and stuff like that. And it's a really neat way to kind of just explore a new city that you're in. So that was cool. That was maybe one of the first times I've done that. And it was a lot of fun. Although of course you had to run with the mask on, so that was
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you know this guy, Philip Jackson. I think he does a podcast too, but he also runs, and he was a run hater before. So
yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know if you know him at all, but
sounds vaguely familiar. Yeah, it's definitely ringing a bell. But yeah, he was not into running. He lost a ton of weight, and then he's massively into running. I think you probably must have inspired him with that.
I think it was Susan. It wasn't me. It was Susan.
It was Susan. And you've
Yep.
inspired a lot of people to do that. And I'm not a real big runner, but I'm trying to build that up little by little. And it's fun.
We can be like Peter Yap. I've seen is just doing a lot of wakeboarding, so you could just start doing that.
Oh, is that what he's doing?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah, he's doing a bunch of interesting stuff. He wrote a book recently
Mm-hmm.
on command line tools and stuff. I gotta talk to him soon. Well, cool, man. This was a lot of fun. Getting a chance to catch up a little bit. And anything else going on that I forgot to ask about? Anything on top of mind for you?
No, I think we're kind of waiting for the world to open up. I saw version 3 of Commerce Hero. I'm sure your listeners already all know all about that, but we've used Commerce Hero.
Oh, thanks.
I'd highly recommend it. Yeah, I don't. I'm sure there's tons of stuff I'm missing.
Thanks. I'll give you that. Give you the $5 for that plug afterwards.
You're very welcome.
I'll Venmo that to you. Thanks. Yeah, thanks a lot. And where can people find you online?
On Twitter, Brent W. Peterson, at Brent W. Peterson, LinkedIn at Brent W. Peterson, Instagram at Brent W. Peterson.
TikTok?
And, I think I'm Brent W. Yeah, Brent W. Peterson on TikTok.
Tinder?
Yeah, you got
Tinder?
TikTok. I haven't done a lot of new videos yet, but I'm working on it. I did get a super fancy camera. I just like to before we close out, TJ Gamble, who is the fantastic media guy, that he's my media hero. He got me into a really nice camera package, and it honestly, when we came back on, it was working again, and then when we go on to live, it doesn't work. So I'm using my not so great camera, but I'm disappointed that it didn't.
We'll get a follow up in, because when you drop $2,000 on a camera setup, you wanna make sure you can use it. I know all about that. Yeah, TJ helped me with my setup as well. I have the Lumix. Do you have the Lumix?
No, I got the Canon R series mirrorless,
okay.
And so and then I have this Aja UTAP HDMI converter.
Yep.
So
yep.
And then the other thing is that Canon has an EOS beta package that you can use it just as a webcam. It works on everything but Skype.
Oh God.
Like, it's one of my drop downs on all my other packages.
Yeah.
And it's whatever reason it's not working on Skype.
Oh,
I don't know if it's today or whatever.
I'm actually going to check out vMix, which is the software that that TJ uses, because I thought Skype and Ecamm was one of the best options. I think it's one of the best options, but it does have a few hiccups. So it's kind of like what you said with the conference platforms, like with doing video and podcasts. Like there's a million different options. They all have little issues, and it's kind of a hassle. But
Yep.
onwards and upwards. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will see you soon.